Hi, Orod. Good morning.
Hey Soma, good morning. Happy New Year. It's the
Happy
first
New
time.
Year. I know.
It's almost end of Jan, but we haven't met properly. So,
True, that's true.
and
And
it's
also,
our first episode in 2025. So, yeah,
that is exactly true. Well, it's always a great time when we start, isn't it? So, doesn't matter which date it is.
absolutely. So, how was the New Year so far?
Good. My it was amazing. I was in Japan for a
Oh,
conference.
nice. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard about that.
So,
Lovely.
yeah.
All
What
right.
about
So, do you have any present for the audience?
yes, I
New
do.
Year gift.
Now, okay, going back to Japan,
Uh-huh.
like the origination of Toyota
Oh, yeah,
production
yeah.
system, lean. So, I have a question. So, I have heard this, some people were talking about that, Kanban is good for manufacturing or for operations,
Mm-hmm.
but not for product development or
Mm-hmm.
software development.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's have a chat about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a very common myth, probably the most common one,
Mm,
which pe those people actually had a point. As you mentioned, Kanban originally started in Japan in Toyota, and the first Kanban system started in Toyota. Otherwise, the actual Kanban back to mid 40s or something.
mm,
And it worked in manufacturing. And in fact, I think a lot of, especially car manufacturing and a lot of other manufacturing, they're using some sort of Kanban system, even without calling it Kanban, but they use it. And I talked to different people. It's very common actually in those industries. But in software development, as we discussed before, Kanban is relatively new. So it's probably about around 2007, 2008. It was the first Kanban system that David Anderson started at Microsoft. So I think based on that, and also because Scrum is very common or commonly used in software company, so a lot of people think that Kanban it's not for software development or what you said, which I like it and prefer product development.
mm,
But you used it, I used it in product development. I actually had really good experience with Kanban, which I think I talked about it in a few episodes before. And based on that experience, I talked to a few conferences as well and shared my experience. So I think what we need to focus is uh, people think that Kanban doesn't estimate the work, for example. In Kanban, we don't estimate, so because we don't estimate, so we can't plan, and that's why it's not good for product development, but manufacturing or operation, as you mentioned, because the size of the work normally predictable and similar, so it's easier to use or it's more suitable for those environments. Um, but again, we talk about estimation multiple times. So Kanban never said don't estimate. If you want to estimate, you can estimate. But one of the key factor of Kanban is first, we visualize the work. And after a while, maybe a few weeks, I would say, maybe 1 month, then we gradually learn how long the work actually takes. And based on that, we can plan the future, right? So we can start with some sort of estimation, and then gradually we can compare our estimation with the actual time, the lead time that we discussed before, and adjust the estimation and then plan based on what actually happened. So before I move forward, do you want to add anything? What is your experience on that?
Well, going back to, the origination of Toyota production system and how this was applied in manufacturing, which was a real success. They did really good work in there. And but again, coming back to the modern day Kanban that we use is very different because it has been optimized for human use.
Mm-hmm.
or knowledge work. And if we go back to product development, the first rule of it is that understand your customer.
Mm,
And that is also very much aligned with the service delivery principle that Kanban always recommends. So when I look at Kanban, the Kanban management method that we always try to experiment with use at
mm-hmm,
our work, in our life, is very different to how this used to be used in manufacturing or in operations.
mm-hmm.
When it comes to product delivery, when it comes to, product development or software development, the first thing that people need to understand is that there is a lot of unknown. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of experimentation that needs to happen. And when it happens in that way, because it's not the system that's doing the work, it's the humans that is in team,
That's
you
right.
have to understand few other principles also, how to work with humans, how to encourage and empower them to deliver the work in the best possible way. So change management principles and service delivery principles, which are the core principles of Kanban management method,
Mm-hmm.
really gives us that understanding that it is
Yeah.
not
Understand the customer.
exactly. And also
Always
how to
Kanban start with the customer. Yes.
with the customer fit for purpose, right? That's the basic mantra
Mm,
that I also, like when I'm coaching product people, I'm telling them always like it goes back to the humanness of things.
that's right.
Product as a whole is like it's not going to be relevant or useful for anyone if the customers who are humans are not using it. So when you come to that, understanding human and how you can work with them is really important. And that's where the Kanban management method comes in really handy if you understand the basis of it. Then comes the six general practices that we have in Kanban. Those are more like the process oriented things. So this now we are getting into the like depth of it, which is coming from lean as well, like the visualization, understanding where your bottleneck is. Now, this is something is so interesting that we are taking so much from Toyota production system, but we are also evolving it because evolution is something that Kanban really talks about in Kanban management method is that
Mhm.
it's not just following something, it's also evolving in based on the
Yeah.
context, experiment.
And also, I think it's good to mention that Kanban means signal. So to
Yes.
develop a product or to run a operation or, build, I don't know, something in manufacturing, or if you want to build a house or whatever, Kanban just send you the signal. So you need those signal to understand when the resources available or when the requirement is available, when the work is done. These are all the signal that Kanban sent. So you can use it anywhere, basically.
It's building a system which is for human,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I find it really beautiful about Kanban. And based on my experience, I've worked with a team recently where they have kind of like implemented and embedded a Kanban system. But what they have done, the outcomes were really different. They wanted a culture in the team who would own
Mm-hmm.
their work rather than one person telling people like you have to do this, you have to do that next. So how you design your system, a lot of it depends on like what you want out of that system.
Yeah.
So how you visualize your work, if the visualization is telling you that okay, this work is the next priority,
Mm-hmm.
then one person don't have to tell the team that okay, go pick that work. It
Yeah.
is understanding, a mutual understanding within the team that okay, everything is prioritized. You have to just look at it when you have capacity
Mm.
what to pick. So when you think about it, this is the best part about like
Yeah.
delivery.
I totally agree with this one. You mentioned a really important point because one of the biggest problem we have in knowledge work environment when people needs to talk to each other, right, is the miscommunication. And
Mhm.
Kanban can facilitate that conversation by visualizing the work. So we focus on the work, the status of the work, and
Mhm.
help us to rather than justify and keep explaining we quickly
Mhm.
can say, okay, if this comes, then this one will be impacted.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, and which
sorry
is
to interrupt you. Yeah.
oh no, that's all good because that is something I wanted to
My
say next.
famous coffee cup.
Your face. Oh my gosh. Now you're really interrupting me by, like derailing my thoughts, but
Yeah,
visualization
context
can
switch.
context, which is not something Kanban suggests, just
It's
letting
not
you
good.
know. That is the reason work in progress limit is there. But
Yeah.
also when you're looking at the board, if you're visualizing, it also tells you about the business risk,
Mm,
about, like the risk that the product might face when you are delivering it. Are your customers ready to accept it? All those kind of things can be visualized in there. And when I hear things like, this is only suitable for operations, I'm like, no, this can do so much more. I will tell you an example of how I saw, Kanban system in the airport. So when you do go through the security checks,
mm,
they have a big screen where they were displaying the throughput, how many bags, how many things are checked in the given time. So it was there, like the numbers, like every what do you say, every lane had that, the screen.
mm-hmm,
And
mm.
I was noticing that in one of the screen, the throughput was dropping and it was red. So they had the color coded as well. Like
Uh,
they had a threshold where like green is
That was
definitely
in Japan
good.
airport.
No, that was in Sydney Airport when I was,
Sydney. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I was looking at it and I just noticed, I was like, oh my gosh, if you look at it, the throughput in here is dropping. And then I checked the lane, the
Mm,
officers weren't there. So what was happening? The lane, there
yeah,
wasn't the
yeah,
security officer who would check the people. So
yeah.
because of that, there was a bottleneck. So I could see the numbers like becoming red in that particular lane, which was amazing because a simple visualization, but also the thought process behind designing that system.
Mm,
If you know how to read it, you get a
yeah.
clue that, okay, we
That's
need
the
someone
signal we
here.
were talking about.
Exactly. We need
Yeah.
someone here so that this lane can also become green
Mm,
because they already have a base threshold that, what can be considered green in their system.
exactly. So
So,
make it explicit, make policies explicit, right? So
exactly.
that's one of the policy. What green means, what red
Yeah.
means, what amber means.
Exactly. And this is, again, if you think about it, they are not doing operations kind of work because every lane is different. Every customer, every passenger that comes in is different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might take, more than 200 ml of water in their bag. So
That's
again,
very true.
the threshold will, like the throughput will
Yeah.
become red in there because it's taking a lot of time for them to
Yeah.
check that.
So speaking of the color and make policies explicit, because basically what we're talking about now is Kanban is not just for a particular industry. We can use Kanban for pretty much managing anything, right? And that's including the traffic. So what does amber or yellow means to you when you're driving?
Well, I still cannot drive.
Oh, you can't drive. Okay.
No.
So if you're not, doesn't matter. But what does that mean to
Yeah,
you?
I can still observe. So yeah, like when you have to stop, right? Like when
So
it is
slow down,
amber,
right?
you have to slow down. When it
Yeah.
is red,
For
you
some
definitely have to
people,
stop.
yellow or amber means speed up.
It depends. It depends. So it's not very clear and aligned on. So
Yes.
there's no explicit policy, I believe.
Anyway, so that was really good, Soma. So for we talk about Kanban that can be used in product development, operation, different industries, software, manufacturing, construction, anything, even
Mhm.
traffic or airport.
Yeah.
Because what Kanban in actually as core does is send a signal, and we need to send these kind of signal to help us to manage the work better. In
Yeah.
software development and knowledge work, Kanban and its visualization and as well as other principle help people to communicate more effectively
Mm.
and also clarify the definition of what the work when the work's done and all those kind of thing and help people to communicate better and reduce the miscommunication and misunderstanding, which is a very big problem. And also we talk about the prediction and planning and estimation, which probably one thing that people think Kanban is not good for product development is because they want to plan to see when the product will be ready for the customer. and they think that Kanban, doesn't have any estimation. And I think we quickly talk about that as well, that Kanban can help the team with the predictability as well.
Mhm.
So it was a very quick session. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just one more point to that. We did speak about the service delivery principle in particular, where the focus is always about the customer, which is
Oh,
also
yeah.
what product agility is all about. So building fit for purpose product. So for that, the first rule is understand the purpose
Yeah.
of the customer, the need.
Start always with the customer. Who is your customer? What the customer wants, when they expect, all those kind of things, which is one of the Kanban principle. All right, very good one. Very short episode, the first episode of 2025. I hope that helped to clarify another Kanban myth. So thanks,
Yes.
Soma, and thanks everyone for listening and watching us. And we come back next week.
Yes. Thank you, Orod. Thank you, everyone.